Another home game, another blowout loss for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll break it down on this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. We are breaking down this Cowboys blowout loss, 34-10 to the Houston Texans. Weirdly enough, this game was a lot closer than what the final score indicates. We're going to break it all down, but there was a point in this game where it was 17-10. The Cowboys were lining up to kick. I'm looking at it now, a 40-yard field goal, which certainly seems like automatic for Brandon Aubrey, and he missed it. And you make that field goal, you go into halftime, and it's 17-13. You get the ball at halftime. This feels like a game that could easily go your way. Things got out of hand, and really more in the fourth quarter. I don't want to say the Cowboys should have won this game or even could have won this game, but man, they were in this thing.
I mean, there was a point, actually, there was a moment when Aubrey had made that 64-yard field goal before the Cowboys accepted the personal foul penalty, that the Cowboys were, I think, within 4 points, right, of them. So
I think it would have been 20-13 and
20 to 7 points. So yeah, there would have been a 7.
But I think it was that's like the 2-minute mark of the third quarter. So you had the points on the board. I agreed with the decision, obviously, to take the penalty.
Absolutely.
Because you had a chance to score a touchdown and
get the ball back, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, and cut it to a 3-point game.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you this was mostly a fourth quarter where just things got a little wild.
Yeah, well, ultimately, and this is the kind of, there's a lot to talk about here, but ultimately, I think, one of the things you and I were talking about before the show started was this is not an NFL team right now. It's not an NFL quality team. They're playing with so many backups at so many different key spots that they could pretend to be an NFL team. I think they spent, especially the offense, right? They spent the whole second quarter at least pretending that they were an NFL offense and doing some stuff, but they couldn't string together whole, halves even of quality NFL football. I thought that the defense played out of their mind, especially early. All things considered, considering who was out there playing for them. But I think, the offense, like I said, outside of almost kind of an anomaly in the second quarter, they couldn't string together any quality play to kind of sustain anything. And ultimately the best situation the Cowboys could produce was only being behind by a touchdown or only being behind by, 3 or 4 points.
There was a point early in the fourth quarter where the game wasn't decided. I mean, but you kind of knew where that was going, but I believe it was a 2-score game. Here are some of the players that were out on the field for the Cowboys offense. It was Awesome Richards at left tackle. You had Brock Hoffman at left guard, TJ Bass at right guard. Brevin Spann-Ford was your only tight end of the field because Jake Ferguson left with a concussion. And then you had Ryan Flournoy, Jonathan Mingo, and Kevontae Turpin as 3 receivers on the field with Deuce Vaughn in the backfield. I was joking before the game that this had preseason game number 3 vibes. That's kind of what this thing turned into by the time we get to the fourth quarter.
Brevin Spann-Ford was your third most targeted receiver in this game. And the guy that was the second most targeted receiver of the game was a guy that was getting snaps behind Brevin Spann-Ford for the last few weeks in Luke Schoonmaker, who I thought actually had a pretty decent game. We can talk about mild positives at some point, but even then, I think you're to the point is that, outside of CeeDee Lamb and one pretty incredible Kevontae Turpin snap at wide receiver, they just don't have a lot of talent out there. And I think some people are looking at the Rico Dowdle numbers and going like, why? Oh, well, he had a pretty terrible game. But listen, you and I spent all week talking about how the Cowboys' run game needed to get going, and outside of Rico Dowdle and CeeDee Lamb, what else was there for this Houston defense to focus on? So it didn't make their job very difficult.
Just to follow up on the Rico Dowdle thing, according to the NFL Next Gen stats, he was 5 yards in rushing yards over expectations in this game. Show you how bad the offensive line was. Yeah, he actually played well in this game. What a weird offensive game for the Cowboys. What was so striking about this one is that we thought that Dallas needed to run the ball to limit the number of dropbacks Cooper Rush had. The Cowboys won dropbacks in this game in 18 carries, 2 of which were kneel downs by Cooper Rush. Like
55 attempts, that's just like, that's ridiculous. Like that can't be a way to try to win the game. And honestly, like, even though the running game was not successful, like, the fact that the Cowboys would potentially try to run at least gave the defense something else to think about. Once they turned the ball over, once the double strip sack play happened, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point. And the game kind of got out of reach, and the Houston defense knew that the Cowboys could only pass from there on out. That's when the floodgates really opened up in the pass rush, and then especially after you started losing a key offensive lineman on your line.
What a weird game. We're going to talk about Cooper Rush's performance, but big picture, Landon, the Cowboys are now 3-7 on the year. We have 7 more of these games we have to suffer through.
We have 7 more we have to
I know. I started counting the quarters over 28 quarters that we still have to watch.
I did see your 31 quarters until we draft Travis Hunter tweet, and I'm like, man, if only.
Where are we as a team right now? I mean, obviously, playoffs are so far in the rear view. Exactly. Thanks to Jim Mora. Is this as bad as you remember the Cowboys being, not as a team, maybe as a team as well, but like as a franchise? Is this one of the lower moments we've seen from them?
This is as bad as I remember This is as bad as I remember being a Cowboys fan. At least in those terrible 2000 years, you knew that they were going to be terrible. Like, they're starting Clint Sterner at quarterback. You didn't have playoff hopes when you're starting Clint Sterner. It's like, this is a situation where this Cowboys team, I think we had dulled expectations for sure, like, especially considering after what had happened last year. But considering where we were at expectation wise before, let's say, week 1 or before training camp, and where we are now, like, we've fallen off a cliff and then found a cliff at the bottom of that cliff and fell off it. Like, it's the expectations, the vibes around this team are terrible. Like, the one thing that we talked about that we were looking forward to having this team kind of develop or at least get some positive vibes out of was the youth, and especially on the offensive line. The offensive line has got nothing but worse, it seems like, at points, and then on top of that, more injured, and you, like I said, we might I really hope not. We might have seen Zach Martin play his last snap with the Dallas Cowboy. That's the kind of terrible that we're talking about, is that Zach Martin has an ankle injury, possibly playing his last year as a Dallas Cowboy, and that wasn't the lead of all the terrible things that happened to the Cowboys tonight in this season. So it's awful. Like, we're all suffering through this together. Is there anything at the light of the end of this tunnel that can make this worth it? Who knows? But the truth of the matter is that it's like you prepare yourself for how brutal these games are going to be, and that there's a chance the Cowboys get blown out. And every single game, it seems like the Cowboys find a way to break your heart a new way to like draw you back in. Just enough to kind of brutalize you by the end of the game. It's like having a $1 billion stadium that can't open its roof without strips of metal falling down and almost killing people.
Good comp. I felt pretty numb in this game, to be honest. Like, even there was one time the Cowboys had to take a timeout because they had 12 guys on the field on special teams.
That was so ridiculous.
And then they had another goal line situation where they did get called for 12 guys on the field. It's just those little things have just kind of happened all year, where it's At this point, you almost have to laugh,
Yeah,
even though there's nothing funny about it, right?
Yeah.
It's a bad spot to be in. And we talk about all the time what's best for the franchise and like, hey, you're probably better off long term trying to get a top 5 pick. And I joke about getting Travis Hunter, all the time on Twitter, but like what you don't want to do is to establish a culture where losing is acceptable and common. And I don't want to say that we're there yet, but you see some of the effort and some of the faces on the sideline. And I do wonder, like, are we getting close?
There's too many times when I look at some laughably embarrassing, terrible thing that's happening, like with this team on the field or off the field. And I'm like, wow, what a microcosm for this whole season. And at a certain point, it stops being about the season. It starts being about the team. Right. Yeah. And that's what you worry, right? Like, what's the long-term effect on this team outside of, like, does it get so bad that you can't just simply wipe away the 2024 season as you enter 2025 and try to restart? Like, it lingers with you. And that's a legitimate concern, that they're just so bad and they stop believing in themselves that you have to find a way to turn that back around in 2025 instead of just hitting the ground running on a new season.
Let's talk about Cooper Rush's performance again. Just threw the crap out of the football tonight. 350 something yards. Let's talk about his second start. Yeah, his second start this year next. This episode is brought to you by Zbiotics. Pre-alcohol probiotic drink by Zbiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Zbiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel much better tomorrow. Again, here's how you use it. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol for best results. Make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. And step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We are breaking down the 34-10 loss by the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Let's talk about Cooper Rush, because he went 32 of 55 for 354 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He took 5 sacks. He did lose a fumble in this game. How do you think he played on Monday night?
I don't think he played great. I mean, like, I think that the problem that we're going to have here with Cooper Rush is clearly that it's hard to separate his evaluation from what's going on around him, right? And I think, to his credit, like I've been saying all the first segment, he's not really playing with a, NFL worthy roster of characters at this point. And I think even, it's now spread to the offensive line, where Zach got hurt later on in the game. Tyler Smith left the game. Guyton, left the game. I think each of those is dealing with their own situation. And frankly, of those 3, none of those 3 was the worst offensive lineman on the field. That was Terrence Steele, who continues to baffle us with just like full on regressive back to his, rookie playing at this point. So I think, he was dealt a very difficult hand. There's no doubt about it. I think the thing I have issue with is that, first of all, why are we throwing the ball so much? Like, with Cooper, it's Cooper Rush. I understand that that's, the way that you have to try to score the ball, but you also want to keep the ball away from Houston. And I understand that the run game wasn't working, incredibly well, but I think if they had stuck with it, they would have had a little bit better success. But I also think that beyond that, the thing that, the selling point for Cooper Rush is that he's supposed to be, calm and cool and collected. And frankly, that's what you needed a lot of in this game with all these young and inexperienced players. And it just felt like there were easy throws that he should be making, not just that, like, an NFL quarterback, but we know that he can make, that he's just missing. Like, it's short throws. I don't have a problem with the fact when he's, throwing it down the field and he's not making those tosses. Like, that's something that to a large degree, that's expected because he's not an NFL starting quarterback. And I shouldn't expect him to be able to make all those throws at a consistent rate. But like, when you're throwing it out to the flat, like leading the running back out, like, all you do is throw check downs all day, Cooper. Like, get the ball out so the guy can make a play. It just felt like there were just too many times when, I understand that the guys out there aren't exactly, the top-notch guys, but, you should be helping elevate that a little bit, especially when they're playing to your strengths. And the fact that, he's kind of becoming part of the problem when you've got all these other folks around him, like, that to me is enough for me to start saying, like, why not put Trey Lance out there at this point? Because it just doesn't make sense. Like,
I thought there were some really good plays that he made in this game. The throw that he made a CD on the sideline, not the big game, but the one that set up the fourth down, was an awesome throw. There were a couple, really, really good plays.
The 24-yard pass to Schoonmaker when he was coming right after they took the sack. Yes. And I was just like so mad. And then he was standing in the end zone, breaks a tackle, gets up, stands in the pocket, and throws it to Schoonmaker. That was high level stuff. And that was great to see out of him. So yeah, I agree.
And the difference between really good quarterbacks and backup quarterbacks is, can you do the routine things routinely? And too often in this game, I'll give you an example. So the Cowboys had first down and 10 from Houston's 15-yard line, right? This is a chance to cut it to a one-score game, get down 20-17, right? He drops a snap, which is the second week in a row that he's dropped a shotgun snap. You cannot drop I understand if you miss a snap under center because you're not used to it. You can't drop a snap.
A good snap. It was a perfectly good snap. Absolutely.
Second play, he throws into double coverage, a ball that should have been picked off to Luke Schoonmaker. Third down, he makes an unbelievable throw to CeeDee Lamb. Fourth down, yes, there's a holding call, and I hate the sprint right option, but the play actually worked. Like, Jonathan Mingo was open across the end line, and he just airmails it. And there were a couple other plays earlier in the half where it's like, okay, we're designing a bootleg or a rollout to the right, and we've got CeeDee Lamb screaming across the field, and he throws it on the back hip of CeeDee Lamb, and he's not able to make the catch. Like, that wouldn't have been a huge gain, but it's the difference between being in 2nd and 3 versus 2nd and 10. And when you have a backup quarterback, you can't live in 2nd and 10.
The Cowboys are lucky. There was another play. I mean, he couldn't throw. He couldn't throw the swing pass. The early on in the game, I think it was the second drive, he fumbled the ball. That was a fumble. That wasn't an incomplete pass that he swung out to Rico. Yeah. And like, the Cowboys are lucky that they didn't get whatever, 2nd and 19 or whatever it was, because they lost because the referees just completely missed it, I guess. But the point being is that and then another one to Rico, when he runs out to the flat, he throws it to Rico's inside hip instead of leading Rico where he can catch the ball easily in momentum and turn up the field for a big play. And then it seems like it's a small thing, but again, like, this is what you do. Like, I'm not upset at you for not completing a 15-yard dig against middle of the field closed coverage. I'm talking about an outlet pass that, like, you do all the time. And I think at a certain point, that was early in the game, but later on at a certain point, he got so rattled that the effectiveness that you get from a normal Cooper Rush situation where he's, calm and calculated for a guy that doesn't get a lot of snaps, you lose that. And once you lose that, it's like, what's the difference between him and Trey Lance? So
And we should talk about that. We'll do it throughout the week, but like, there's a very good chance that you're going to be without both starting offensive guards, at least for this upcoming game in week 12. Washington, I believe, is who they play, correct? I haven't looked at the schedule. It shows you how to check that. There's also a good chance you're without your starting left tackle and Tyler Guyton, who's dealing with some kind of shoulder injury. There's a good chance that you're going to be without your starting tight end, Jake Ferguson, who is in concussion protocol. You might need the athleticism of Trey Lance to be able to escape a pass rush and to escape and give you some rushing ability. You might not have a choice now.
Yeah, it's Washington this week, and then you play obviously the Giants on Thanksgiving. So that's two situations where you're going to have one team that's going to be scoring a lot of points, and then another
I just
team.
thought about Dexter Lawrence against their guard.
That's what I was just going to say. And then another team that has Dexter Lawrence on their defensive tackle rotation. So you're going to be facing a situation where Dexter Lawrence is going against maybe TJ Bass or Brock Hoffman at some points, maybe both, right? Like, so yeah, you're going to need somebody who can do something, when things break down in his face. And I think that's why it may be best if you're, who knows, are we trying to win these games? Maybe you just leave Cooper Rush in there and you just, give him an extra.
I want Cooper Rush to be able to stand up. I'm worried with his lack of mobility.
Yeah.
You might be putting him in some serious danger if you let him drop back and throw 60 times again.
He might, end this year, not even this the season. He might just end this year in December in hospice care after back-to-back week with Giants and the Washington Commanders. So.
Not great. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys defense, which again, it sounds really weird, but I thought they held up pretty well for most of this game. We'll talk about that unit next. This episode is brought to you by Bilt. Listen up, renters. Ever feel like you're stuck in this loop of rent payments, just watching your money vanish into thin air? It's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. That's where Bilt Rewards comes in. Bilt is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and watch the Bilt points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a hotel stay with over 700,000 hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them toward a future rent payment, and so much more. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That is joinbilt.com/LockedOn. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Join built.com/LockedOnNFL to start earning points with your rent payments today. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'd like to thank you for suffering in misery with us together. I got a nice little care package from our guy Clayton today that said,
"Me too.
Misery loves company," and thanks for the company. So I shout out to Clayton. Make sure you go check out the new Locked On NFL show. 2 shows every single day. One in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys defense. Now, they allow 34 points in this game, but it's really 27 because the defense or the offense gave up 7. And again, most of that came in the later stages of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Second and third quarter combined, they only gave up 6 points. I thought they settled down for the most part in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, again, what were our expectations going is that they were going to get kind of run over by in a lot of ways. And early on, it looked like that was going to be the case, right? It didn't look great. The yards per play, if I remember correctly, in those first few drives was pretty shocking. They were chunking it up pretty well. But you're right. And I think that this has been a feature we've seen with the Cowboys defense is that they've been able to kind of put together a series of back-to-back drives where they can get off the field. Sometimes it's a 3 and out. They certainly seem to be benefactors of some luck at certain points, but at certain, I also think that I don't want to just over credit luck sometimes, because it does feel like Zimmer is sometimes confusing these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I do think that the interception in the first quarter really kind of points to that, right? Like, I just think that there are times when these quarterbacks just aren't 100% sure what they're getting out of these looks that Zimmer's giving them. And this is why we keep kind of prescribe, the Cowboys needing to get into obvious passing down situations, because even though there isn't a lot of talent necessarily on the field, I mean, you have obviously Parsons still, you've got Diggs out there still. I think that you can still make enough when you have those guys out there, and then you add in Zimmer's ability to kind of disguise things and make things difficult. So I obviously that wasn't the case throughout the game. They were able to kind of later in the game really start to kind of get back to chunking plays and making big gains, especially as the game went on. I think that the defense got really frustrated and really exhausted. And I think that was indicated by all the fights that we were starting to see at the end. There was one play where I don't think I've ever seen a play where 4 players got a personal foul in one play. And so it was obviously getting heated out there. But I think the point being that the defense, even though they were at times overmatched, really played their hearts out. And really gave good effort. And I think that's showing something. And it was at least easier to root for, it felt like, than the offense. The offense, it was just so kind of pull your hair out frustrating.
So there was several times in this game where you could see like there was plays that could be made, but they just didn't have the right guys out there. For example, there was a 3rd and 1 play when the game was 20-10. So game's still within reach. It's 3rd and 1, and Houston goes quick. And CJ Stroud throws a ball to Tank Dell on the right side, and he misses the throw. He throws it way, way inside. And last year we saw Deron Bland make that play almost every time and take it to the house, right? Like, that's why he finished the year with 8 interceptions. Like, he made a killing off quarterbacks throwing the ball late and inside. But because it's Josh Butler on the field, he's turned around and doesn't see the football, and it hits him like right in his elbow.
Yeah.
Those are the plays. There was another play on a 3rd down where Micah forces CJ Stroud to run basically all the way around the field. And that's where, if you have another defensive end that's winning his job, they come together and make the sack. Instead, he escapes, and I think they go on to kick a field goal on that drive. It's just those little points where your injuries in the secondary and on the defensive line have really crushed their ability to get stops.
Yeah. And I think that they've done a good job, like I said, like relative to expectations of getting off the field. And they've given this team a lot of opportunities in these games. But it's not something that, like, you're at the point. We're still viewing it versus expectations that are very low. Like, we're not expecting these defenses to go out and win games for us. That, the fact that they're able to get off the field multiple times, or to go a quarter or a quarter and a half without allowing a touchdown, that's really good stuff. So at a certain, again, relative to expectations, at a certain point, if the Cowboys are going to win some of these games, one of these sides of the ball has to get to full health and to start playing at full strength. And to me, it does seem like if the Cowboys actually were to get some more pieces back, I do think that this defense could start playing good defense. Like, it does feel like there are the pieces here for, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are moments you see it where you can see, like, if the pieces were all together, this could be a good defense.
Like,
right?
if you got Bland, who potentially could be coming back, Jordan Lewis, who we don't know how long he's out. Let's say it's a 1-game absence, and Marshawn Nealon comes back, and now you have another viable defensive end and 2 functioning corners to pair with Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, like, I can see, especially in some of these other games that they'll play against teams that, like the Giants, right, coming up, where you don't really have to worry too much about the downfield passing attack. Yeah, I can see it. It's just, will we ever get to that point, or are the injuries going to continue to mount on defense where you're never going to see them resemble a healthy unit at all?
That's certainly a way it could go down, because it does feel like, as this team kind of strains to create effort to try to win these games in which they're overmatched, their bodies are buckling under that strain, especially some of these older players are getting nicked up, and you have to wonder at a certain point, like, does do the players, whether they consciously admit it or not, they start to kind of give up on this and start to realize like, hey, like, I this injury's too much, or this I'm hurt too much to kind of keep going on, and they pull themselves out so they don't, further injure themselves. And maybe that's the way that a team like this kind of naturally tanks. And you hear Travis Hunter's name getting called as he's walking across the stage in Green Bay, right? Green Bay, is that where the
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, perfect pick for the Cowboys. The Cowboys need so much, so why not get a player that can help you out at multiple positions, right?
At this point, yeah. I mean, maybe he can play tackle as well.
I wouldn't doubt it. So yeah, we've got. Listen, the good news is it's a short week. We don't have to spend too much time on this game. We've got a crossover show coming for you on Thursday. Obviously, we'll get you ready on Friday for Cowboys Commanders. It's just it's just one of those weird seasons where everything feels like a blur, but at the same time, this feels like the longest season in NFL history.
That's true.
What a year. All right, that is it for the today's show. We would like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosier. Join us on Wednesday. We will suffer together. We will get through this. I promise you. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll see you then.